Hello everyone, my name is Alex, and well, my YouTube channel, it's back after quite a long absence. We're pretty much going to start from scratch again. I don't want to have too much of an intro, but if you don't know who I am, you can follow me on Twitter and TikTok. And yeah, we're going to jump straight into the roster for the September World Cup qualifiers for the US men's national team. We're going to go position by position, look at the players who are on the roster, look at some names who maybe should have been there who weren't. There aren't too many of them this time. Some guys who maybe shouldn't have been there, you never know. And then look at what I think maybe we could run out as the lineups for the 3 games, which are against El Salvador, Canada, and Honduras. So we'll start with the goalkeepers, and this was the easiest position for Greg Berhalter to pick: Ethan Horvath, Zach Steffen, and Matt Turner. So all 3 of them, I'm quite comfortable with all 3 of them starting. I think Steffen, going into the year, going into June, was the automatic number 1, pretty much undisputed by the majority of people. Matt Turner had some great performances during the Gold Cup, which actually make him my number 1 at the moment. And Ethan Horvath was superb, coming in as a substitute for the injured Zach Steffen in the Nations League final, obviously saving Andres Guardado's penalty. An important thing here is that Matt Turner is the only one of these 3 who is actually starting for their club right now. Ethan Horvath is kind of fighting for minutes at Nottingham City, and Zach Steffen, though he has played the Community Shield final and a couple games here and there, he hasn't really played much for Manchester City over the last season. Overall, I think we're going to see more than one goalkeeper start a game in this international window. Let's move on to the defenders. So for the defenders, there were actually 10 named. We're going to start with the fullbacks, which are George Bello, Serginho Dest, Anthony Robinson, and DeAndre Yedlin. So for those 4, I think that's a bit of a surprise, to be honest. Reggie Cannon, who's been in pretty much every single Berhalter camp, if not all of them, that I can recall, he's not here. He hasn't played for Boavista because there is an impending transfer. So we're going to, hopefully that's what happens. We're going to see what happens there. And also there is no Sam Vines, who just moved to Antwerp. That means that the 2 right backs here are Dest and Yedlin, both of whom are better in a back 5. We'll come back to that later. Then there's also Bello, who's also better in a back 5, preferably, and Anthony Robinson, who, guess what, is better in a back 5. Noticing a trend here? I think the obvious starting pairing at the first choice is Dest and Robinson. Robinson has had a great start to the season for Fulham. Dest has had a good start for Barcelona. However, over 3 games in the space of 6 days, there's going to have to be some rotation, and we're going to have to see someone else probably get into the starting lineup apart from that pairing every single game. Now we'll move on to the center backs, and there's obviously John Brooks, who picks himself, and then Mark McKenzie, Tim Ream, Miles Robinson, James Sands, and Walker Zimmerman. So John Brooks and Miles Robinson are the 2 that were absolute locks. They picked themselves. They were always going to be here. John Brooks is our undisputed best center back, one of the best center backs in the German Bundesliga. And there's Miles Robinson, who was our best center back during the knockout rounds of the CONCACAF Gold Cup, and of course scored the winning goal in the final against Mexico. The other 4, well, they're not too surprising. Mark McKenzie played the Nations League window all 4 games, and other than the Mexico game where he had some silly mistakes, was pretty solid. And then there's Tim Ream, who he's had a solid start in the championship for Fulham, but really at 33 years old, he's way older than anyone else in this camp, and he's not going to play, so really what's the point in calling him in other than to coach? I think really that's what he's going to be. He's more of a coach than a player. Then there's James Sands, who I think really is best as the central center back in a back 3 or as a 6, so I don't think he's actually going to play very much in this window. And then there's Walker Zimmerman, who's also coming back from an injury, but he has played the last 2 games for Nashville, and he did play the All-Star game on Wednesday night. I think we're going to have to see some minutes shared between all of these guys because Brooks has a league game on Sunday. The first game is on Thursday, and there's a couple other situations like that the whole squad is going to have to address. With the midfielders, we're actually going to start with the 2 6s. So that is Kellen Acosta and Tyler Adams. Now Acosta actually hasn't really played the 6 for the Colorado Rapids, but that's where he played throughout the Gold Cup and even a little bit in the Nations League window, and he was actually excellent there. So Tyler Adams is our second best player, in my opinion. I know that's an unpopular take behind Christian Pulisic, and he's our first choice starter, and he's going to have to be the key to help us qualify for the World Cup. Kellen Acosta, again, picked himself. He was superb during the Gold Cup and very good during the Nations League. He can fill in a lot of different roles in the field. He can fill in as a fullback if he's needed to. So yeah, those two really just pick themselves. Now for the 8s, there's only 3, which is very fascinating because you would expect there to be more. So does this mean that Gio Reyna and maybe even Brendan Aronson are going to play at the 8 at some point? We'll have to wait and see. Weston McKennie, he's our best 8. He really just picked himself. He was always going to be here. Sebastian Lletget was also going to be here because he's been in every Berhalter camp except for the one where he was injured in 2019. And look, he gets a lot of hate, maybe undeserved hate, but he's a consistent player. He's got a role in this team. He doesn't need to be the star, but he's a role player. And I'm totally fine with him being here and playing that role and being one of the elder statesmen, so to speak. Even though he's only 28 years old, he does have experience. And keep in mind, he has been in World Cup qualifying only a little bit in the past, but he does have a little bit of experience. Then there's Christian Roldan, who is one of the more puzzling inclusions. He gets in here over the likes of Luca De La Torre, Julian Green, and even Eric Williamson. I might have taken over him. He's best as a winger. We've seen that for Seattle where he plays in the front 3, and at the Gold Cup, at his best moments, he was on the wing. So him being here is quite puzzling to me. I don't think he's really good as a box-to-box midfielder, in all honesty. So I don't think he's going to start any games. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with Christian Roldan. But I'd much rather have Gio Reyna or Brendan Aronson being rolled out as an 8. And Luca De La Torre, interesting to see him not here, though he did skip the Gold Cup of his own choice. So we'll have to wait and see. And Julian Green, he's never really played with this team, so it's not too surprising, honestly, that he's not in this roster. On to the forwards, and there are quite a few. So we'll start with the wingers, which are Brendan Aronson, Conrad De La Fuente, Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, and Tim Weah. So we'll start with Pulisic, who is recovering from COVID. So I don't think he will be ready to go for the first game because he won't have played in 2-3 weeks. Gio Reyna, he can play on the wing, he can play in the midfield. I think his role for this team is wherever we need him between those positions, and that's okay. He doesn't need to be one position. He's had a good start to the season for Dortmund, and he is going to be a key player for this team, and honestly, I can see him starting all 3 games in this window. And then we're going to look at Tim Weah, who really hasn't been that good for Lille, and he's even played as a number 9 a little bit. So Weah is probably the 5th best of these 5 wingers at the moment. We'll have to see what kind of a role he plays, though I think, of course, everyone on this team is probably going to get some minutes, except for Ethan Horvath. Conrad De La Fuente has had an amazing start to the season for Marseille. He's been one of their best attacking players. He's been playing on the left wing for them, and Marseille are a very good team, so Conrad De La Fuente is clearly proved to be a very good player. Taking defenders one-on-one, he kind of resembles Christian Pulisic in that way, which is why I really like him coming off the bench as a replacement for Christian Pulisic if we need to rotate. We haven't really had a good replacement for Pulisic like that until now. And now we're going to have to look at the number 9s, of which there are 3. Jordan Pefok, Ricardo Pepi, and Josh Sargent. So we'll just run through those real quick. I think Sargent is going to start 2, if not 3 of these games. So Sargent, he's the number 1 striker right now, like it or not. You really cannot dispute that. A lot of the work he does, he can come back, he can defend, he can then connect with the attackers, the wingers, and then even arrive in the box and score goals. Now, he's on good form right now for Norwich. 2 goals and an assist in his last game, and he's probably going to earn the start this weekend. So Josh Sargent, I think, is the undisputed number 1 right now. Ricardo Pepi is my favorite inclusion here, and a lot of people will look at Ricardo Pepi being this team and say, you're only calling him up to cap tie him, aren't you? No, I genuinely think next man up with Zardes down, Hoppy going through a transfer. He's the next man up right here, and he's been having a phenomenal season at FC Dallas. Of course he has to be in this team, and though he's not going to start any games most likely, he's going to get some minutes, and he's going to be good. And then the third guy is Jordan Pefok, who is probably the number 2 striker in this team. And yeah, he's been doing decent for young boys. He's not had the best start to the season, but he has scored a couple goals, and he has helped his team qualify for the UEFA Champions League. So there's not much you can really complain about here. I really like Jordan Pefok as a guy off the bench, especially when the game is starting to get stretched a little bit. He can definitely be an aerial presence and definitely contribute in the 18-yard box. So now we're going to take a look at my lineups for the 3 games. Now these are subject to change, absolutely, because there's going to be injuries, there's going to be fitness, there's going to be fatigue, there's going to be all kinds of things. Players who perform better than we expected, players who underperform. So this is all subject to change, but this is at the moment how I would rotate, because we are going to have to do a lot of rotation, and I think that is the biggest advantage we have on a lot of these teams in CONCACAF, that we do have that depth that we can rotate. Okay, so let's start with the El Salvador game on the road, which is the first game. There is my lineup right there, and in goal I have Zach Steffen starting, even though I did say Matt Turner is our best goalkeeper. I'm just going to start Zach Steffen in this game. The first game, you'll see why later. The back line, I mentioned that John Brooks is actually playing against Tyler Adams' Leipzig on Sunday. That's just 4 days before the game. He's going to have to do a transatlantic flight, and they're going to have to fly again down to Honduras. Lots of flying, lots of... You know what? This is why I'm starting Mr. Miles Robinson in this game. And Miles Robinson, he started left center back of the Gold Cup, was amazing, so I'm totally confident with him playing here. And then Walker Zimmerman as the right center back. He's been decent for Nashville the last couple of games, just coming back from injury, but he was great during the Gold Cup group stage. So absolutely, he has to be starting here at right center back in this game, simply because Mark McKenzie, I think Zimmerman is over McKenzie right now, just because it's the Mexico game, the Nations League final. He did have a couple mistakes. That's why I'm going to put Walker Zimmerman in here. But he's really fine as either way. And then for the left back, I have Serginho Dest starting at left back. He can go forward now. There's no Christian Pulisic because, as I said, he can come off the bench. But Brandon Aronson, you know, Serginho Dest brings that down the left flank, what Christian Pulisic kind of would to an extent. And then Yedlin, I'm going to start actually at right back, simply because he's got experience in CONCACAF. He's experienced on the road in CONCACAF, and that is something that is really valuable, and I'm totally fine with him starting at right back for the first game against El Salvador. Onto the midfield, the first thing you're going to notice is that Tyler Adams is not here. Kellen Acosta is starting at the 6, as he did for much of the Gold Cup. I have Kellen Acosta starting because Adams is going to be coming from a game 4 days later. Adams, we're going to need him. Canada and Honduras are the two more difficult games. Those are the two most important games. So we absolutely need Tyler Adams to play both those games. And maybe he comes off the bench for Kellen Acosta in this El Salvador game, but I actually have Kellen Acosta starting it at the 6. And then we'll move on to the 8s now. I can already hear the people groaning that Sebastian Lletget is starting alongside Weston McKennie. So Weston McKennie, off the bat, just picks himself, box-to-box midfielder, the perfect player we need for this team. But Sebastian Lletget, well, pretty much just lack of better options. Without Pulisic, I just like Gio Reyna starting on the wing. And Sebastian Lletget being that other 8, he is we're going to hold the ball a lot in this game. And maybe he doesn't drive the ball forward the way some of you will want him to, but he can hold the ball, keep it simple, because we're going to have a lot of possession in this game. We're going to need to hold on to the ball and try and break them down, just passing the ball around a lot. That's how we're going to have to play against El Salvador, to be honest. So I like Sebastian Lletget. He's not going to do anything silly. He's not going to give the ball away. He's consistent, and he's level-headed, and that's kind of a player you need in a high-pressure game like this in El Salvador, especially with the loud crowd here. And then on the wings, I do have Brenden Aaronson and Gio Reyna, as I mentioned. Brenden Aaronson, because Pulisic is coming back from COVID, I like him starting this game. And Gio Reyna starting on the wing. Just wait for Gio Reyna. There's going to be more about him in the next two lineups. And Josh Sargent I have starting as number 9, because as I said, he is the clear-cut number 9 at the moment. Here's my lineup for the second game against Canada. Now, some big changes here. This is honestly very close to what I see as our full-strength lineup at the moment. So Matt Turner is the goalkeeper without a doubt. I think he's just the best shot stopper, and maybe he's not as good playing out the back, but that's fine, right? I honestly think it's fine, because he did fine in the Gold Cup. He hasn't conceded a single goal from open play in his entire time for the U.S. men's national team, so he's my number 1 for this Canada game. And then the center backs, again, that's honestly the easiest position to pick other than the goalkeeper for me. John Brooks and Miles Robinson, that's our starting center back pairing right now. Chris Richards is not here. Chris Richards is having a transfer situation. Maybe he's not 100% fit. Brooks and Robinson, I think Robinson's a very good counterpart for Brooks, because Robinson's a very good one-on-one defender. He's very quick. John Brooks is neither of those things. So Miles Robinson's a very good partner for Brooks, and I can see this being our partnership at the back for quite some time. And then Destin Robinson, as I alluded to before, that's our best fullback partnership. Both of them are very good going forward. Robinson is very good defensively, and I like Robinson as a cover for John Brooks on the left side. these two, again, they really just picked themselves. Tyler Adams is our second best player, as I mentioned before, so I have him starting at the 6. That will allow Gio Reyna to move into the midfield with Weston McKennie as the 2 8s. Now, maybe Gio Reyna in a bit more of an advanced role. He's played as an 8 a little bit for Dortmund this season. And I think now is the time that we can move Gio Reyna to the 8. Why? Because of the emergence of Conrad de la Fuente. Now, these guys, they can interchange right, left. I don't really mind. But I just like Conrad de la Fuente going up against Canada. Why? Because Canada's defenders, let's just say, they're not really suited for a Pulisic or a Conrad de la Fuente, who are very, very good individually in the one-on-one dribbling battles. So I honestly like these two starting as our starting wingers. This will only be his second cap, unless he plays against El Salvador. And then I have Josh Sargent as the number 9 again. I just think Josh Sargent, he's our clear-cut number 1, and against Canada, I like him getting the start, and I like him getting the nod here up top. And for the final game on the road in San Pedro Sula against Honduras, this is going to be my lineup. Now, you'll notice a formation change to a 3-4-3, whatever, 5-2-3, whatever you want to call it. So, obviously, I'm going to stick with Matt Turner in goal. I'm going to stick with Brooks and Robinson. I'm going to put Mark McKenzie in the middle of that back 3. I know it's not a position he's played for the U.S., but he can play with both feet, so I'm comfortable with Mark McKenzie. I'm also comfortable with James Sands playing that position like he did in the Gold Cup. But I think this is the back 3 for this game. And then Robinson and Dest as the right wing back and the left wing back. These two both play those positions for their clubs, so this really only makes sense. And then the two, I guess it's sort of a double pivot here of Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams. Again, these are our 2 best central midfielders, so that's just an easy selection right there. And then the 2 inside forwards, wingers, whatever you really want to call them, Christian Pulisic and Gio Reyna. Gio Reyna moving back into that front 3. Again, really easy to pick. Its position picks itself. And then up top, Jordan Pifok, Siebachu, whatever. I think he starts against Honduras. You can't start Sargent all 3 games, in my opinion. And in this kind of environment, I think Pifok is going to do well. And maybe Pepe comes on, maybe Sargent comes on, but striker rotation is going to be big in this window off the bench. But I think Pifok starts this game, and I think he'll do well because breaking down Honduras is going to be tough. Breaking down Honduras is going to be really tough. But we'll have to do it. If we can get a draw or a win, I'm happy. I think the goal for this window should be 7 points. 9, it would be nice, and we should go for it. But getting a win away against Honduras is not an easy thing to do. It's why we haven't. I think we've only done it once. I think we did it in 2005. I think that's it. So this is going to be a really tough window, but I think we can do it. We can get 7 or 9 points. That's the absolute goal here. So before we wrap up, let me know what you thought about this roster. Who do you think should have been here that wasn't selected? And who would you start in all 3 games? Let me know in the comments. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok. And yeah, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We're back, and we're going to be doing some videos throughout World Cup qualifying and eventually on the road to Qatar. So we will see you guys next time.